You don't struggle to choose. You struggle to choose without losing someone. You sit with decisions for weeks. Replay conversations in your head. Imagine reactions that haven't happened yet. And you tell yourself you just need more clarity. But the truth is quieter than that. You're not confused. You're afraid. Afraid that one honest decision will change how someone sees you. And your brain would rather delay your future than risk that shift. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It looks like overthinking, like being careful, like considering everyone's feelings. But inside it feels different. There's tension in your chest, a tightness when you imagine saying what you really want. You picture their face, disappointed, withdrawn, colder, and suddenly the decision feels dangerous. So you stall. You gather more opinions. You ask friends what they would do. You create pros and cons lists. But none of it brings relief. Because this isn't a logic problem. It's a belonging problem. In social psychology, humans are described as belonging-driven organisms. Baumeister and Leary need to belong theory shows that social connection isn't optional, it's a core survival need. Your nervous system evolved in tribes. To be rejected once meant physical danger. So your brain developed a powerful alarm system. Not for lions, for disapproval. And when a decision threatens approval, your system activates. Even if the threat is subtle. Even if the person would probably understand. Your brain doesn't calculate probability. It calculates potential loss. And that's enough. You are not bad at decisions. You are deeply attuned to attachment. Some people lean toward autonomy. Others lean toward connection. If your early environment taught you that love could be withdrawn, or that harmony had to be maintained, you likely developed a heightened sensitivity to disappointment. That sensitivity once kept you safe. Maybe being agreeable prevented conflict. Maybe being accommodating preserved stability. Maybe anticipating others' needs earned praise. Your indecision is not weakness. It's an old survival strategy that hasn't been updated. And strategies aren't flaws. They're adaptations. When you imagine making a decision that might disappoint someone important, several brain systems activate. First, the amygdala. This small almond-shaped structure scans for threat. It doesn't distinguish between physical and social threat very well. Research using fMRI shows that social rejection activates similar neural circuits as physical pain, particularly the anterior cingulate cortex. So when you imagine disappointing someone, your brain simulates pain. Not metaphorically, neurologically. Then your brain's predictive machinery kicks in. The default mode network, responsible for imagining future scenarios, begins running simulations. You see possible arguments, possible distance, possible changes in tone. This is called effective forecasting. And here's the problem. Humans consistently overestimate the emotional fallout of negative events. Your brain assumes, if I disappoint them, the damage will be deep and lasting. But research shows we are far more adaptable than we predict. Still, your brain doesn't know that yet. So it tries to protect you the only way it knows how. Delay the decision. Because no decision means no rupture. But delay has a cost. Every time you silence your own preference, your brain registers something else. Self-betrayal. Over time, this weakens self-trust. And indecision increases. Because now you're not only afraid of disappointing them. You're unsure whether you even know what you want anymore. We don't fix this by being bold. We update the nervous system. Here are 5 grounded steps. Ask yourself, whose disappointment am I actually afraid of? Be specific. A parent, a partner, a mentor, an imagined audience. Attachment theory explains that we internalize key figures as working models. Even if they're not present, their expectations echo inside us. Sometimes you're not afraid of the current person. You're afraid of a younger version of you being rejected again. When you name the figure clearly, the fear becomes smaller. Vagueness amplifies anxiety. Specificity regulates it. Your nervous system confuses harmony with survival. But they're not the same. You can experience tension without losing connection. This is called differentiation, a concept from family systems theory. Differentiation means I can stay emotionally connected to you while still holding my own position. If conflict feels like danger, your system likely learned that disagreement led to rupture. But adult relationships can tolerate friction. Test this slowly. Allow small disagreements. Notice that connection doesn't collapse. Your brain updates through lived experience, not logic. Visual, abstract breath animation syncing with expanding light. When your body is activated, your decisions will skew toward safety. Slow your breathing. Lengthen your exhale. This stimulates the vagus nerve and shifts your nervous system toward parasympathetic calm. In that state, your prefrontal cortex, responsible for long-term reasoning, becomes more active. You cannot access clear thinking, while your brain believes you're in social danger. Calm first, then choose. Your brain overestimates catastrophe because it lacks corrective data. So give it data. Say no to something small. Express a mild preference. Delay responding instead of answering immediately. Each time nothing catastrophic happens, your prediction model updates. This is neuroplasticity in action. Repeated safe exposures reshape fear responses. You are retraining your threat detector. Here's the deeper shift. You may believe that choosing yourself equals disloyalty. But loyalty that requires self-erasure isn't loyalty. It's compliance. Secure attachment allows for individuality. Research on healthy relationships shows that autonomy strengthens connection, not weakens it. When you act from alignment rather than fear, you bring authenticity into the relationship. And authenticity builds trust. The people who can tolerate your truth are the ones safe to keep. The ones who cannot, we're benefiting from your silence. Here is the simple mental model. Your brain runs a belonging calculator. Every decision is filtered through one question. Will this cost me connection? When connection once felt fragile, the calculator becomes overly cautious. It assigns high risk to small disagreements. Your work is not to eliminate the calculator. It's to recalibrate it. Instead of asking, will they approve? Ask, can I remain connected while being honest? That's the upgrade. Connection plus selfhood. Not connection instead of selfhood. When you hold both, decisions simplify. Because you're no longer choosing between love and authenticity. You're choosing both. There will always be moments where your truth creates discomfort. That doesn't mean you chose wrong. It means you chose honestly. You were never indecisive. You were protecting attachment. You were guarding connection. With the tools you learned early. And that makes sense. But you're allowed to grow beyond survival patterns. You're allowed to disappoint someone and remain worthy of love. You're allowed to choose a path, even if someone prefers another version of you. The goal isn't to become confrontational. It isn't to reject others. It's to stop abandoning yourself. To prevent temporary discomfort. Because the quiet cost of chronic self-betrayal is a life that feels distant from your own voice. And slowly, gently, you can begin to trust that connection does not require self-erasure. You can breathe. You can choose. And the right people will adjust. Perfect. Here's the next episode in the psychological identity arc, building naturally from indecision and attachment into a deeper layer of self-concept. You're good at being who people need you to be. Reliable. Calm. Funny. Low maintenance. Strong. But when you're alone, there's a quiet question underneath it all. If I stop being this, who am I? And more importantly, would they still stay? You didn't consciously design your personality. It formed slowly. In response to something. Maybe conflict in your home. Maybe emotional unpredictability. Maybe high expectations. Maybe subtle rejection. So you adapted. You became the easy one. The smart one. The achiever. The peacemaker. The independent one. And it worked. You were praised. You were accepted. You were needed. But now something feels tight. You struggle to express anger. Or ask for help. Or say you're overwhelmed. Because your identity is built around not needing anything. and the thought of stepping outside that role feels destabilizing. This isn't random. In personality psychology, this is known as adaptive trait formation. Traits don't appear out of nowhere. They form in response to environments. Your nervous system learns. This behavior keeps me safe. And it repeats it. Over time, repetition becomes identity. You are not fake. You are not broken. You are not losing yourself. You did something intelligent. You adapted. From a behavioral psychology perspective, behaviors that are rewarded get reinforced. If being agreeable reduced tension, your brain tagged it as valuable. If being competent earned approval, dopamine strengthened the pattern. Your personality is a collection of reinforced strategies. It's not your essence. It's your history. And strategies can be updated. Think of your brain like a forest. Every behavior is a path. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. Neurons that fire together wire together. This is Hebbian learning. If as a child or teenager, expressing sadness led to dismissal, but competence led to praise, the competent self pathway got stronger. The vulnerable self pathway grew over. Eventually, your brain defaulted to competence automatically. This became your identity. Now here's the deeper layer. Your brain prefers predictability over authenticity. The predictive processing model of the brain suggests that your mind constantly tries to minimize uncertainty. Acting in familiar ways reduces prediction error, even if those ways limit you. So when you try to act outside your established personality, your brain interprets it as risk. Not because it's wrong, because it's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar equals uncertain. And uncertainty equals potential threat. So you retreat into the role again. Not because it's true, but because it's known. You don't destroy your personality. You expand it. Here are 5 principles grounded in psychology. Instead of saying, I am the strong one, try, I learn to be strong. This subtle language shift activates cognitive flexibility. Identity fusion, when you overly attach to a role, increases rigidity and anxiety around change. By reframing traits as learned strategies, you loosen the fusion. You become the observer of the trait, not the prisoner of it. Every adaptation solves one problem and creates another. Being independent may protect you from rejection, but it may also block intimacy. Being agreeable may reduce conflict, but it may suppress authenticity. In schema therapy, these are called coping modes. They are protective, but when overused, they distort connection. Ask, what is this role protecting me from? And what is it costing me now? Awareness reduces automaticity. You don't abandon the role overnight. You test the edges. If you're always the strong one, tell someone you're tired. If you're always the funny one, let a serious moment sit. If you're always independent, ask for small help. These are exposure exercises. And exposure rewires fear circuits. Each safe experience tells your amygdala, we can survive outside the old role. Gradual expansion builds psychological range. When you step outside your survival identity, you may feel guilt, or anxiety, or a strange emptiness. That's normal. Your brain equates predictability with safety. New behavior creates prediction error. Prediction error feels uncomfortable. But discomfort doesn't mean danger. It means growth. Distinguish the two. Psychologist Dan McAdams describes identity as a narrative. You are the storyteller. Instead of, I've always been this way. Try, I adapted this way and now I'm evolving. A flexible identity reduces anxiety because it allows change without collapse. You are not removing pieces of yourself. You are adding new ones. Here's the mental model. Your personality is a suit of armor. It protected you. It helped you belong. But armor is heavy. And it's not meant to be worn all the time. You don't throw it away. You learn when to take it off. You keep the strength, but you allow softness. You keep the competence, but you allow uncertainty. You keep the independence, but you allow closeness. Integration isn't rebellion. It's expansion. There is nothing wrong with who you became. It made sense. It kept you connected. It helped you survive environments that required adaptation. But survival is not the same as freedom. And at some point, the role that protected you starts limiting you. You don't need to perform your personality. You can inhabit it. And slowly, carefully, you can widen it. You can let yourself be seen in new ways. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just honestly. You are not trapped by your personality. You are simply outgrowing it. And that quiet shift, from survival to choice, is where real identity begins.